welcome again to another episode of the ProteraPod. My name is Andy Wiesner, Senior Solution Architect here at Protera. Today, I'm really excited. I get to sit down with my good friend Jitin Oza, who's our Vice President of Application Transformation. And Jitin, thank you so much for joining. I think this is your first time, so welcome to the Protera podcast.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, it is really first time, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Awesome. Well, Jitin, I thought a great topic for today is something that we're hearing more and more in the SAP ecosystem, and that is Cloud ALM and also this integrated tool chain. And so SAP over the years, they've had a lot of different lifecycle management tools, right? And I think the most famous example is Solution Manager. I think it was a tool that we all grew to either love or loathe, probably both. And Cloud ALM, every interaction that I have is one of these things that is just being talked about as a replacement for Solution Manager. And I was kind of questioning that myself of, is this just another solution manager? Because I kind of equate Soulman sometimes as this thing that SAP just forced customers to use, and they didn't get a lot of value out of it. Whereas I think Cloud ALM seems a little different. So maybe talk to us a little bit. In your opinion, what is Cloud ALM, and is it just the next Soulman?
A great question and start, Andy. Yeah, so if anybody's thinking that Cloud LM is basically a replacement of Solution Manager, then it's pretty much basically a 2-year-old thought process. I see Cloud LM as an extension, but with a lot of more capabilities that are basically ready, not for the present, but also for the future, right? So Cloud LM, if you think about it, in the last Insider Summit, in the Sapphire, and everywhere else in the recent discussions, SAP has basically put Cloud LM right next to Signavio, LeanIX, and all other strategic acquisitions that they've done. That means this is basically the future platform where all kinds of application lifecycle management activities are going to happen, right? And obviously, it's a extended capability platform that is continuously improving, continuously innovating. It provides a lot more capabilities, to the customers around how, let's say, future will look like for them, starting from their on-prem journey to going to cloud, right? So if you think about it, it's basically the execution backbone for what SAP will call ultimately an integrated tool chain. So Cloud ALM is actually at the strong base foundation of the execution backbone for integrated tool chain. That's how I would like to call, what it is.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's what resonates for me too, right? Is it's not just another tool. I like the way that you position it, that it is kind of that backbone for that enterprise transformation. Soulman so often its role in transformation was just generating maintenance stacks for an upgrade, maybe doing early watch reports at its best or at its most basic function. And, sure, you had some things that you could enable, things like monitoring, technical monitoring, business process monitoring. Some customers would use the ITSM functionality, and those are all to some extent, I think, in Cloud ALM. But what I'm seeing is that it's really taking these capabilities and moving them a lot further along. And so maybe let's just dive into a little bit of some of the capabilities of Cloud ALM, and we can kind of talk through, then how does it become really transformative? And so,
Right.
At its basis, see what I did there with monitoring?
You
But
did.
I crack myself up sometimes. But Cloud ALM, it has this capability for doing monitoring. And what's really great, I think, is customers that are moving to Cloud ERP, they don't have OS access anymore. And SAP, for me, they've got some dashboards that are in the portal, but some of that visibility is lacking. And so that's where I think a tool like Cloud ALM comes in, is to do some of that monitoring, both of just the health of the application, but then you can go a little bit further. So maybe talk a little bit about how is monitoring different in Cloud ALM?
Yep. So to start with the high level capabilities, right? I mean, if you think about it, the name itself represents, right? So application lifecycle management. But the cloud word is also very important because this product is very much built on cloud for the cloud applications, right? So starting from there, if you think about the life cycle, implementation, operations, services, and transformation. And to keep it extremely simple, SAP has really created these four modules and four layers of functionality for Cloud ALM. You can literally, when you log in, you can see those four modules. Now, specifically talking about operations and monitoring, right? The biggest thing that I took away when I've started using this about 2.5 years ago from the inception of Cloud ALM, now hundreds of customers running on it, right? The best part was the way how the dashboards are pretty natural. If somebody who is at a very core of the technology, who is responsible for the applications, availability, management, monitoring, and everything else, they would obviously want that I need something that can manage and monitor my solution without a lot of fuss. And health monitoring, one of the functionality within operations is really that. With 400 plus matrices, it actually literally enables monitoring for S4 HANA system on Rise in, I would say, half a day. You just connect the environment, set the thresholds, and again, these are all standard SAP thresholds that are available out of the box that you can tune, and then you are ready to go, right? The best part is instead of showing you the boring statistics, it comes with the traffic light and the graphics that actually makes it extremely simple for those who are not even familiar with SAP as a technology, right? It's a pretty general known dashboard that will give you a very clear insight of how typically your environment's health will look like. So that's really impressive. And then there are more capabilities, right? So if you think about going beyond health monitoring, some of the things that has been introduced by SAP in the past but has not really become that successful, which is extremely powerful now in Cloud LM, is real user monitoring and the experience monitoring, right? So synthetic user monitoring is really extremely powerful capability supported by a very strong and proven technology, Selenium agents, that runs proactively with whatever region, whatever script, and whatever, let's say, specific performance parameters that you want to review it for. It proactively detects and identifies problems before it happens. And a lot of our customers are extremely excited about it because they can actually run a dashboard that CFO is going to run in a board meeting and prove that it's going to work. And that will give them a lot of comfort. This is something that SAP has not come before, right? So I'm really excited about this. A lot of our customers are already implementing this. Yeah, so Andy, in nutshell, this is really a very impressive platform, pretty fast track as far as the enablement is concerned. But what we always caution our customers with is that we really want to go through that proven 7 to 8 week journey where we not only enable the platform for you but make it meaningful for you, right? So that's really how we go about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I would agree with you is the monitoring features that are in Cloud ALM really have made a significant improvement. And I know Protera, we're using our Watchdog monitoring tool, and that actually has a lot of synergies with Cloud ALM. But Cloud ALM is able to do a lot of unique things now with monitoring in Cloud ERP. And like you said, the real user monitoring, the synthetic user monitoring just brings that whole new level of experience. So it really transforms what that looks like. But you also
Yep.
mentioned it's so important. I think SAP they will turn it on Cloud ALM, and maybe that's a question for you. My understanding is Cloud ALM is similar to Soulman. It's at no cost
It is.
initially,
Yeah.
and so that's
So
one of the cool things is you get Cloud ALM, but then there is the effort to maybe do some of the deeper configuration of those individual modules, and that's where having a partner like Protera to do that enablement, to walk through how do you want to use this and make sure that you're getting the most out of it.
exactly, Andy. One of the other thing that our customers are really leveraging Cloud LM platform for and are very excited about is the SaaS monitoring. right? So interface, integrations, exceptions, and all kinds of SaaS applications. As I mentioned before, Cloud LM is built for SaaS, for cloud platform, right? So the beauty is with this concentrated implementation and enablement journey through a 5 to 6 week cycle, we actually take a different approach when we implement this for customers. We ask them that, okay, the capabilities are one, dimension, but the important point here is what do you want to achieve as a business outcome out of this implementation, right? And with that approach, we enable monitoring for various SaaS applications that we connect through Cloud Vantage platform, which becomes a unified observability for our customers. That means 17, 20, 30 SaaS applications along with S4 HANA are now visible through our platform where customer is very familiar. They come through it. Cloud ALM provides all kinds of insights and alerts, which are actually not just relevant for the IT team, but business team as well. One of the example I'll quote here is one of the most common SaaS application that we have been recently implementing is SAP DRC, which is a service that is enabled on BTP platform and integrated integration suite, SAP, formerly known as CPI, right? So pretty much all our customers are going through this journey where they are transforming their SAP PO environments into integration suite. And the monitoring capabilities provided by Cloud ALM on those two platforms are exceptional. Out of the box, with a little bit of Protera enablement, customers are now benefiting a great visibility around many things that they have not even encountered earlier, right? And that this is basically saving not just their troubleshooting time, but also a dispatch time.
Hmm.
So let me take a little bit of explanation on what is this dispatch time means. You can imagine a large mid-sized customer, a classic Protera customer who would have multiple businesses and multiple departments to support a typical integration scenario. Now, what happens when there's a problem? It will take about, let's say, 2 hours, 3 hours to figure out that, okay, is it a Concur problem? Is it a S4 HANA problem? Is it a Ariba problem? With this kind of implementation that I just talked about, it is extremely easy to isolate the problem component, provide the specific details, dispatch the issue, and solve the issue. So just, in nutshell, it's really very powerful, but I would say extendable platform that our customers are really benefiting from.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought up just some of the SaaS monitoring and especially like the integration monitoring because I think that that's something that is, like you said, so powerful. And so that's monitoring. Great. Soulman did that. One of the other things that always comes up is what about charm, change and request management? And, what does that look like? And I think a lot of customers are a little surprised to learn that charm proper does not exist in Cloud ALM. And so, Jitin, why did you take away such a great tool? What's going on?
Well, I tell you one thing, the biggest part, the most beautiful part of Charm that customer loved was retrofitting.
Hmm.
And let me tell you the good news, retrofitting is back. When we started, the automatic transport management, the CDM, change and deployment management functionality in Cloud LM, retrofitting was not there. But in last 6 months, retrofitting is very much there. In fact, SAP has changed this whole concept, right? So it is now, I would say it's called GCTS, right? So Git enabled CTS, where you're not only saving literally possible implementation of n plus one landscape, but also implementing the most successful development philosophy, which is basically GitHub enabled, development, right? So because it's a SaaS product and SaaS applications, it is very relevant and logical to have GCTS enabled in your environment where you have retrofitting available as part of, your uh, uh, change and deployment management. We actually implemented this for a customer who is also using this functionality not only directly in Cloud ALM, but integrating that functionality with some kind of automation with Azure DevOps. So you can think of it like any platform that is popular in market today, any ITSM platform that requires change management, you can extend your platform to your customers, which is your end users or your power users, without even letting them need to log into Cloud ALM. You can actually basically move or provide extend the power of these capabilities that we have. So retrofitting is very much back. In fact, it's even more powerful than what it was in Charm. Now, obviously, there are a lot of additional capabilities in Charm, including the workflow customization, which Cloud ALM has restricted to an extent because if you think about it, the standard workflow steps are by design available in a way that SAP wants to standardize this for their customers and minimize the disruption, right? So that's really how Cloud ALM is being used. Today, actually yesterday, our team, Protera, actually in summit in Bangalore, the Cloud ALM summit that is happening in Asia, have presented a successful case study on this topic as well. And the product manager from SAP and everybody else were also participating in the same session. It was extremely well received and really excited to, talk about that in this podcast as well.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I mean, and if anything, what you're saying is the fact that, this update to release management in Charm and the fact that now they've added retrofitting back in, it shows that SAP is really dedicated to improving the platform. And so, even within the last 6 months, we've seen things, and I know we're going to talk about some of the other new features that are coming out in Cloud ALM. And so, I think there is just such a broad, you know, uh, there's a really large field of things that Cloud ALM is able to do, and that SAP is continuing to invest in that platform and to add those capabilities to it. So those are really huge. And
Yep.
going back to the release management, I think one of the other things for me that's really cool is it's no longer just managing transports. It's Git enabled, which is awesome too. But it also is pulling in the ability to track bugs, defects, and features right in that tool. And so for me, it's almost akin to what you would get from a Jira or a similar kind of development tool, and that your teams are really able to collaborate to work, and that your releases now it may have multiple transports and Cloud ALM. I mean, just like Charm, but it's doing the sequencing, it's keeping all of these things together, and you're releasing features, not just transports. And I think that that just makes so much more sense in a development world.
Absolutely, Andy. In fact, just wanted to ask you a quick question. I know you've been doing a lot of solutioning and a lot of customers are going to Rise, and I know a lot of customers, are probably curious about it. What do you see like when you go to a typical, let's say a pre-sale cycle process? Do you see a lot of demand or natural questioning from customers around Cloud ALM?
It's an interesting question, and I would say it's a lot of curiosity to a point. Cloud ALM, there's a lot of buzz around the product, right? And that's where I kind of led off with that question. Is I think so often the customers that I talk to, they look at Cloud ALM and they say, "Oh, well, that's just the new Soul Man," and so it in some way gets this bad reputation, and I think that as
Yep.
we start to unpack and look at these capabilities inside of Cloud ALM, customers really realize that no, there's actually quite a bit here. And it goes beyond where we started with monitoring. I think in these kind of release upgrade cycles or a migration project, the ability to do the retrofitting, to manage your transports, especially if you've got a complex landscape or N plus one, um, being able to orchestrate a lot of that in is so huge. I also had a customer recently where for them, they were using Jira as a development tool, and they had some changes internally where that tool is no longer available. And so it was an easy conversation to say, guys, why don't we look at Cloud ALM? We can do an enablement. You're already using a lot of the features that are inside of BTP. And this is just an easy and painless transition for how you're doing these practices. And so I think the more that I talk to customers about these capabilities, the more people really do get excited about the tool.
Excellent. Yeah. The whole, impression is changing and the use cases are predefined now. And coming back to the point you raised earlier, like, requirement traceability, feature traceability, and associating that with the integrated tool chain is extremely powerful because you can now use those best practices content, a pre-configured, predefined test scripts. And to the extent, if you have Tricentis tool sets, you can even create automated test scripts that you can execute. You can tell your Cloud ALM to execute those scripts, right? So if you think about it, the whole life cycle is pretty much AI enabled now, right? And it's
Yeah,
extremely powerful. Yep.
it is. And I think that that's where those magic words come in, right, Jatin? It's this idea of an integrated tool chain. And so SAP puts forward all of these different products that are under this umbrella of integrated tool chain. And so we've got Cloud ALM, but we also have products like Signavio, like LeanIX, like WalkMe. And so, Jatin, how do all of these products fit together and how can our customers take advantage of the integrated tool chain?
A great question, actually. If you think about it, it's pretty much, like a four tools, four lanes, and one connected record, right? So the major pillars, right? So Signavio gives you the process transparency, and it gives you basically a fit to standard decisions. LeanIX gives you architectural clarity, the application portfolio and integrated landscape, which has, let's say, sometimes 100 plus applications, right? To make sure that when you go to your future, platform, you definitely want optimization of those application portfolio, right? So Linux gives you that architectural clarity, right? And then it will keep running that whole automated discovery instead of typical surveys and spreadsheets and a lot of visual diagrams. It's a one integrated record that follows through Linux, Signavio, then ultimately Cloud ALM becomes the system of record for that.
Mhm.
So from within Cloud ALM, like I said, right, as a backbone, you can actually click on a document that will be visible in Linux. I mean, that is the power of this integrated tool chain, right? And then in the same record, with the feature traceability that we just talked about, we have a test case and a link for test script documented. You click on that and you actually directly get into Tricentis Tosca, where you can actually decide to run these tests with synthetic data. So think about it. It's pretty much minimizing the workload of your implementation team by probably 70-80%, right? Everything is pre-configured, pre-documented, and this is not a best practices document only. It's customer's actual environment, which is screened through all these tool chains, right? And then finally, WalkMe provides a platform where customers can document a one-time training videos and pre-captured learning content that they can play for every business role. Now, this is also pre-configured and available for standard S/4HANA features. Customers can customize that. It actually literally gives you an intuitive guide to run through a specific business scenario, which is actually started from Signavio, right? So if you think about it, that horizontal 8, where everything is following through, that cycle runs, and it actually gives a very powerful platform and tool set for a customer to actually keep everything in a centralized platform without really having need for any visuals, any BPDs, any Excels, or no specific Word documents, right? Everything is actually now in system, in database.
Yeah, gone are the idea of, like you said, having just all of these disparate pieces of information. Um,
Exactly.
Everything is siloed.
Yep.
This idea of having all the tools integrated makes so much sense. And, that same context, that information flows from one step to another throughout that
Exactly.
whole cycle.
Right.
Now, one thing that's interesting to me is, what is the target user for Cloud ALM specifically? We talked about, okay, we've got folks that are system administrators. I think about my basis people, but then I've got maybe people that are looking at dashboards and leadership. I've got maybe some business analysts and business leads that are working on my processes. But now you talk about WalkMe and training and end users. Is Cloud ALM a tool for everyone, or what does that look like in terms of who is going to be logging into this?
Excellent question, Andy. So it is actually for IT and business, right? And I would say at least the power users. If customer has a full-fledged integrated toolchain implemented, then Cloud LM pretty much becomes a platform for almost every power user, right? Now let me explain this. The two use cases that you have talked about before, right, are pretty common use cases for every power user to submit a feature request, submit a user story, and then converting it into either a defect or a new feature and tracing it with a transport, right? And then we know the whole cycle. It is obviously important for a tester to log into Cloud ALM to update their status and also, let's say, execute tests based on the automated platform they may have. The third and important aspect is business process monitoring. So one of the other important and very exciting, powerful thing that we have not yet discussed is business process monitoring.
Mhm.
So with the extension of business process monitoring capabilities, with the whole cycle that we talked about, customers can actually capture their current business process using the process navigator and the process insights through Signavio that gets visualized through Cloud ALM, and the KPIs that customer want to set for their business processes. So this is not about an IT problem. Let's say a system is down or my iDocs are not working. It's about how many PR and POs were processed today, how many should have been processed, and why they are delayed. This is not an IT problem, it's a business problem. BPM, the business process monitoring, solves that problem. It gives you, unmatchable visibility to those KPIs that are business KPIs that you set and monitor. So to answer your question with that explanation, now you can understand it's pretty much for everybody, including the senior leadership who would want to see a dashboard for their business process monitoring, right? So it's really a very powerful platform that is pretty much given to every enterprise customer.
No, it's a great explanation, Jatin, and I think it really helps to paint this picture of how everything flows together and ultimately SAP's view for what it looks like to live and work in SAP in this modern world. You've got now a tool through Cloud ALM and the integrated tool chain where you can birth new processes and transform existing ones. And you can walk that all the way through from initial documentation to ideation, all the way into your design and deployment. You're managing the deployment of those processes, then you're implementing monitoring. And then I think what's also so cool is now all of this data is in Cloud ALM, but Cloud ALM is not a silo in and of itself.
Exactly.
You can integrate now with so many other enterprise tools. And so I won't spoil it. What does that look like for other companies, and what are some of our customers are doing with those tool integrations?
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much all of our 100 plus customers are implementing Cloud LM as obviously the natural extension for their monitoring, right? This is a de facto use case for everybody now. Obviously, we are putting more insights and visibility along with additional intelligence through Cloud Vantage platform. So any ticket that comes in with resolution that is suggested by AI, right? This is like the next generation already, right? Collating all the issues that are happening, let's say in 2 hour window, making them problem versus incident, and providing suggested solutions is also some of the basic capabilities now. This was supposed to be a very AI ML kind of capability 2 years ago. Now it's a basic capability, right? So think about it. And then finally, I don't know if you have heard the announcement, but literally about 2 days ago, when Cloud LM Summit started, SAP has come up with Joule for Cloud LM and all the AI powered project creations and all the other associated features that SAP is planning to release in Q3 and Q4. The roadmap looks so exciting, Andy, that it is going to really empower our customers to use this platform for their operations, for their project implementations, and all kinds of transformation that they want to enable through Cloud ALM, right? So typical scenarios are obviously monitoring and operations as a start point, but gathering every aspect of their project using Cloud ALM as a platform for documenting all kinds of project, their clean core gate criteria, reporting, and everything around transformation, right? So integrated tool chain actually becomes very powerful for them.
Well, Jitin, I thought we could get through a whole podcast without the use of AI, but there it is. And so you're so right though, is SAP has really looked at how can they innovate. And I think that just goes back to how much they're developing on this platform is the fact that they are now tying in AI and being able to use that throughout the life cycle of SAP. So I think it's really exciting, and it's going to be interesting to see where SAP takes this in the future.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing, the Q3 and Q4 roadmap is available on the Discovery Hub, and then it's looking very exciting. Everything that we used to do by hand is going to be powered through AI. Generative AI will be a very standard use case for every aspect. Requirement documentation, like for example, you just give a Joule for Cloud ALM, a simple message that I want to document this requirement. Here is my layman explanation, just about 2 lines. Here is a document. Cloud ALM will basically convert that into a standard format and document that requirement for you in that project. This is extremely powerful. It saves 2, 3, 4 hours for the consultant and for the user. You'll be able to author that. You'll be able to approve that. You'll be able to manage those requirements, which is also available, right? The future is very exciting. Obviously, a lot of, let's say powerful platforms and tools that were individually good coming together becomes extremely powerful, right? That's how I see it as a platform for future.
No, I couldn't say it better myself, Jatin. And I think that that's really, where it is going. And it's so funny. I think about, just what we've talked about so far, and that's a lot. But I think that there's so much that we haven't even scratched the surface on, that is
Yep.
available in Cloud ALM. The clean core metrics and dashboard being probably the least of those. So
Oh, yes.
there is so much that's there. And, Jatin, I know that you always are close to the ground with Cloud ALM, and it's been a pleasure just taking some time, even just to scratch the surface and get an idea of where Cloud ALM is going today. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely, Andy. No, I think in conclusion, I would just say that at the end of the day, again, we will call out the message that sometimes, customers, even sometimes, when they talk to SAP, the platform is being looked at very switch on, switch off kind of, platform. And actually, we would strongly encourage our customers to look at it beyond that, right? Because if you identify a business value out of it, and if you understand these capabilities and scenarios, and if you work with partner like Protera, and then define those scenarios and the desired outcomes, it becomes a very powerful platform which is delivered to you at no cost, right? So that's really how I would guide the customers to look at it, because it's really all about using the capabilities that is given for your business, right? And that's where enablement and a little bit of an investment with partnership comes in.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jatin. And I think I've got my answer, not just another soul man.
Thank you,
So
Andy.
yeah, with that, we've got to call it a wrap for today's show. But thank you so much for tuning in. If anything that you heard is interesting to you, please do feel free to reach out. As always, our podcasts are available on LinkedIn, on our website, and on Spotify. So feel free to check out this and other episodes, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Until next time, never stop learning.